My name is Lizzie and I work in the financial hardship team at the GLA, which is the Greater London Authority. It's the regional authority for London under the Mayor of London and the London Assembly. So I am here to talk about the pressures on Londoners in terms of the high and sustained cost of living and how you can continue to support via some offers that we have from the GLA. So you'll be familiar with the situation for Londoners. As you'll know well, the high cost of living is having a sustained impact on Londoners' well-being and incomes and ability to get through the winter. What we initially called a crisis has emerged as a new state of what feels like permanent pressure for many Londoners on low and no incomes. Since the tail end of the pandemic, we find that more and more Londoners are finding themselves struggling, but as you'll know well, for many people, their reality was financial struggle before the so-called crisis and has been for a very long time. So this slide talks about the current state of affairs according to a poll from YouGov commissioned by the GLA. What you'll see is that the current trend is that the pressure on Londoners is staying fairly consistently high since last year. And as you know, as we move into winter and people spend more on energy, we expect that these figures around the amount of people financially struggling are expected to rise. There are some specific pressures that have altered since where we were last winter. So, for example, energy prices have on average dropped slightly per household, but the government's energy bill support scheme that played an important role in softening that blow last year is no longer in place. So Citizens Advice are predicting that many Londoners and people in the UK generally are likely to struggle at least as much as last winter, if not more. You'll know as well that extreme pressure on housing costs, particularly for renters in the private sector, meaning that more and more people are finding themselves in really tough situations of eviction, homelessness, and temporary accommodation. We know that as voluntary and community sector representatives, you're doing really important work to support people in often dire need and destitution as places with really trusted relationships with individuals. So I know that you are already doing this, but I want to take you through some practical suggestions for how you can get some support from the GLA to continue to do what you're doing. So I wanted to briefly talk about the GLA and what the Mayor is doing to support people with the high cost of living. This slide summarises some of our efforts. We're focused on tackling both the immediate symptoms of poverty, tackling food insecurity through programmes such as you'll be familiar probably with the universal free school meals that are being offered for all children in primary school this year. But also crucially, we're looking to help people maximise their incomes through supporting access to quality community-based advice on welfare benefits, debt and employment to help people get more money in their pockets so they can choose to spend their money to support their families in the way that's appropriate for them. The Mayor is also putting pressure on the government to tackle poverty, as that's where the most meaningful levers to affect change for Londoners really sit. We commissioned some research recently into what worked well last year with support for the cost of living crisis from local authorities and the voluntary sector. This research was carried out by Social Life for the Mayor of London and London councils. There's a snapshot here of the research, but my colleague Liam is going to pop a link to the research itself in the chat. You'll be familiar with some of this. The report found that flexible funding for organisations was very valuable and it allowed organisations from the voluntary sector to meet the needs of the community in the way that they knew best. It found that supporting active community-based outreach, putting support in places where people go, where people have trusted relationships, informal ways of accessing advice and support was extremely effective. We are working with London councils to embed some of the recommendations of this report. So we're learning from last year as we go into this year. We're talking to people from the relevant structures in London, so decision makers are aware of both the stress that the VCS is under supporting people and also the things that funders and government can do to make this work easier and better. One resource I wanted to highlight is the Mayor's Cost of Living Hub. So the Mayor is launching or relaunching a campaign around support available with the cost of living for Londoners. You'll be seeing advertisements on the tube soon. We did this last year and we're repeating it again, just to promote the support that is available, mainly through directing people to this online hub, which has lots of information about debt, local authority support. It has a link to a benefit calculator where people can check their entitlement to benefit, and that's personalised for London, so it has some London specific offers on it. My colleague Liam again will pop this in the chat, and I think it's important to say that we are promoting this online offer. We also have an offline offer for people who are digitally excluded, so we'll be sending leaflets that have similar information, mainly focused on telephone lines, to households in November. That's going to go to 250,000 households. We've identified the households based on postcode data about areas of low income, also of digital exclusion. And that will have, as I say, information about support, also information about mental health and well-being, helplines, places that people can go to if they're struggling and worried with all this pressure. This is probably the most important slide that I have. So we have some offers for you to connect you with local support if you feel that you aren't already maximising awareness of the referral networks in your areas. The first one is Advice First Aid. So Advice First Aid is a training offer for people working in frontline organisations with contacts with the community who could do with some support around having more confidence, providing information about support that's available and referring onwards to local trusted support agencies. We are running this training for VCS organisations. We will very soon have an expression of interest form if you are interested in taking up the training, and that will be circulated after the meeting in a couple of weeks' time once it's ready. That will have all the information about how to access the training, but it's just for me to say now that this isn't a training to get a qualification or to become an advisor. This is a short course that can help your organisation have more confidence in knowing where to refer to, how to signpost, how to provide basic level information, signposting and guidance for people who are struggling with financial hardship. Food, I know food was a big concern for attendees of this meeting on the Mentimeter. We're funding food partnerships in most, but not all boroughs in London. So the list is there. These food partnerships are essentially aimed at maximising the resilience of the food aid sector. So it's about providing food aid, but also ensuring that food aid centres are able to direct people to more complex support if they need it, to help them maximise their incomes, get more money in their pockets, and be able to tackle some of the problems that they're dealing with. Finally, we can also connect you to your local authority cost of living lead. I know some cost of living leads are on the call. Essentially, all boroughs will have a designated officer who's responsible for the borough's work around tackling the cost of living and financial hardship. If you feel that it would be beneficial for you to find out more about what your councillor's doing, how it can support you, then please get in touch with me. I know that all of those officers are happy to be connected with people on this call. So please, I will pop my email in the chat and let me know, and I can do some matching to see how you can work together with your local authority. I think that is it, but in short, I will put my email in the chat, as I've said. So if you're interested in being connected with food partnerships or local authority support, let me know. Advice First Aid training, the offer will come out after this meeting in a couple of weeks' time. So please do apply if that sounds like something of interest to you. Thank you very much. I'll stop there, and again, happy to answer any questions during the Q&A. Thanks.